You are listening to She Made It. I'm your host, Elle Zimmerman. Today we're going to be talking to boutique expert Charlene Simon. She's going to share with us how her kitchen table creative hobby led her to a multi-million-dollar business. Have you ever felt deep within that there's something more you're supposed to be doing, but you're not sure what? Have you ever felt like you're producing a lot, but not expressing at all? Welcome to She Made It. I'm your host, Elle Zimmerman, and I am on a mission to help you cultivate meaning through the path of creativity. Join me to eavesdrop on conversations with brave women who broke through their resistances into a life of authenticity. Because I believe if she made it, you can too. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to Charlene Simon. And Charlene is a boutique expert. She's an indie beauty leader and a brand artist. Charlene is the founder and owner of several boutique retail brands, including Bathhouse Soapery with these beautiful soap, salts, and beauty products, Evolo Oils and Vinegars, Fat Bottom Girls Cupcakes, and a couple others even. The common ingredient in all of her businesses, in all of her boutiques, is her focus and incredible priority to build customer experiences. Claire, I'm so excited to introduce you to her. I met her a couple years ago at the premier coaching group that I was a part of with Allie Brown. And actually, Charlene and I started about the same time. And we were both in this place of wanting to build and develop personal brands. For those of you who are just joining, I would just love to introduce my creative collaborator, Clara. Clara is with us here today, and Clara is a writer. She's a lover of all things aesthetic. She's on my team. She's newly married. She's not a typical millennial, and she is just going to weigh in. And Clara, I'm so excited to share Charlene's interview with you.
Yeah, I've heard so much about her just working with you for the past year. Wasn't she recently crowned Mrs. Arkansas?
Yeah, she was. She shares the story in the podcast of how, first of all, she has this incredibly supportive family. Her husband is her biggest advocate. And I think it was less than a week before the pageant, he just prompted and pushed her and encouraged her to enter. And she did. And she won. So she is now the reigning Mrs. Arkansas.
That is incredible.
Get ready to hear a fantastic conversation with Charlene Simon. Welcome to She Made It, the podcast for creative women. My name is Elle Zimmerman, and I am so excited to welcome today's guest, Charlene Simon. And Charlene, hello, how are you?
I am doing so good. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited too.
Awesome. And where are you right now, Charlene?
I am I'm in the state of Arkansas, but I'm at home at my home office. So I've been so looking forward to doing a podcast with you that I just needed my quiet space to do it in. So that's where I'm at today.
Oh, well, fantastic. Yeah, I am so thrilled. So Charlene and I, for our listeners, we met as part of Allie Brown's premier mentor group for exceptional women. And Charlene, you just really stood out to me as this super authentic, very creative, very savvy businesswoman. And I just would love to share a little bit of your journey, sort of how you started personally and professionally, what brought you to where you are today.
Sure. So personally, I'll give you just the quick background. My husband and I have been married since I was 15. So we're about to celebrate our 23-year anniversary.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have 3 kiddos together. Had my very first daughter when I was 15. So kind of got married, had baby right away, had all 3 of my babies before I was 20.
Wow.
So that was kind of threw me into life, and responsibility and creativity. Is one of the gifts I maybe have gotten from that. But I have since, then I actually dropped out of high school at that time and ended up going back just to get a GED the year my graduating class was supposed to graduate because I thought that was, I should do that. I should at least have some kind of diploma from high school. And then from there, I really just, school has never really been for me just because I am a creative person and I love I kind of look at myself as an artist. I guess you would say it took me a long time to come around to understanding what that meant for me. But I love to turn ordinary things into the extraordinary. So I've just over the years taken on several like kitchen table hobbies and have been able to turn them into really, really successful brands, retail brands, and nationally recognized brands. And I just keep doing it. I get a new hobby or something or a new interest, and all of a sudden I'm turning it into a business, and I don't know how to stop myself.
That is awesome. So Clara is my co-host, and before we jumped on our call today, I was telling her a little bit because we live in Cincinnati. We're in the Cincinnati area, which borders Kentucky. And if I remember, you have a very interesting story about Kentucky. Is that correct?
I do. Yeah. Kentucky's near and dear to me because that is where I got married. So I grew up in Southern Illinois, about just I think it's like 2 hours from Paducah, Kentucky. And we wanted to get married. I said we were getting married when I was 15. And we wanted to get married, but the state of Illinois at that time, I don't know if things have changed since then, but at the time you had to be 16 with a parent's signature to get married. So I wasn't 16. I was still a year away from being 16. But we had found out with the little research that you can get married in Kentucky at any age with a parent's signature. So
Oh, no.
it wasn't the parent's signature that was the problem, which you would think would be the problem. It was my age. So we loaded our parents up in the car and we all drove to Kentucky and they signed it away. And so we actually got married at the Paducah courthouse on the date on August 16th, which is Elvis's death date. And so we showed up at the courthouse and there were like Elvis impersonators everywhere. And of course I had no clue like that was his death date. I didn't think about those things at 15. And so there's all these Elvis impersonators and then my husband and I. So we stood in line for like hours waiting for a courthouse wedding.
That is awesome. A little diversion from the creativity topic, but how would, if you had to give sort of like your recipe for success in what would almost be, setting yourself up for quite a challenge, marrying that young, kids that quick and that early. What do you think has been the magic ingredient for the enduring nature of your marriage?
I would say that I know we keep using the word, which is what it's kind of centered around, is creativity. My husband is my other half. For whatever success either one of us have had in our lives, we always say it takes two. And he's kind of strong where I'm weak, and we both notice that in each other, and we help each other. Like it's never I'm jealous because you're in the spotlight now, or I'm jealous because the other person's in the spotlight. We are always putting each other up on like a higher pedestal. So even with the Mrs. Arkansas thing, he is the reason I'm Mrs. Arkansas. And so a lot of times you kind of see in the pageant world too, the husbands don't really like their wives in that kind of spotlight. But he's like, here, let me put you up as high as I possibly can. So he's always been that for me. And that's why our success is. And we do get creative with things, in marriage. Like when you're married for 23 years, you have a choice. You either get creative and choose to enjoy your life, or, it's easy. It can be easy to take an easy way out. And we're just not those people. Like in business or personal, we're like, this is the goal. This sucks right now, but we're going to get past it and get to the goal. And so, a happy life together for the rest of our lives is the goal between the two of us.
You're like, if I recall, it was he entered the Navy, and that was what landed you guys sort of in the place where your whole passion for what you do came about. Is that correct?
That is so true. Yep. So he joined the Navy. I think he had just turned 18. So I was 16 at the time. And we had our daughter. We had our first daughter, Mackenzie, and I was pregnant with my son, Justin Jr. And so he joined the Navy, and he actually went on submarines in the Navy, which again is very dramatic, but he decided he wanted to do submarines. So he would leave for 6 months at a time. And that was the period during 9/11 when 9/11 happened. And so he was gone a lot, like way more than they had ever told us he would be, just because of the circumstances of the world and the climate of the world at the time. So I would, be home with them a lot of the time and have to be with them and not be able to work just because daycare for 3 children wasn't going to work out for us. So I had to get creative in how I was going to contribute to the family. So I actually started making soap, which is our main brand, our main business, Bathhouse Soapery. And I started making soap in our kitchen. And that's really where it all began, was like taking those hobbies and turning them into businesses, because to me, that was really an easy way for me to give back to our family and support us through like a passion. And of course I loved it more than anything. I still, to this day, I've been making soap since I was 19. And it's like, if I'm ever angry or I need stress relief or, just any kind of relief at all in life, I will go to the soap pot and make a batch of soap. It's just who I am.
I remember you talking about walking into either a gift shop or a soap shop, and it was like the smell, like you knew this is it.
Yep. So while he was in the Navy, our very first place we were stationed was San Diego. They have a big submarine base there, and never even really knew you could make soap before I knew what I know now. We walked into how I found out and how I kind of came upon it all was we walked into a shop that was like right outside of San Diego in like a little touristy area. And I was like, I literally walked through the door, and once I realized where we were at and what I was looking at, my whole body was like vibrating with like, this is the rest of your life. This is what you were made for, kind of a thing. And so I remember asking the lady, hey, how do you make soap? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm such a nerd over it right now. And she kind of gave me that's none of your business. You got to learn on your own. This is proprietary information. So that was before the internet was like in vogue, like you could just go Google or YouTube anything you wanted to do. So at least for us, we didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't have internet at the time. So I ended up packing up all 3 kids to the library, literally the next day, and read every book I could read on soap making and chemistry and soap making. So I kind of taught myself how to do it, like the chemistry behind it, and went the whole long route of books and libraries and things like that. And which now you can kind of just YouTube brain surgery if you want to. Right. But I feel like that was so good for me to do, because I learned the whys behind it and the hows instead of just, this is the process, step 1, 2, 3. So kind of like a baker, like someone that bakes a cake, you either know why those ingredients are used in those proportions to make the best product, or you just follow step 1, 2, 3 on the box and there you still have a cake. But there's just something special about doing it from scratch, learning the whys and the hows behind it, especially when you're into something as much as I'm into like cosmetic formulation. So that just has always felt good to me. And so I've duplicated that process over and over again with anything that we've, ever wanted to turn into a business. Like I always get into the minutia of what it is we're doing instead of just saying, oh, that's a quick way to make money, let's do it. I have to have the passion behind it. And then I have to know everything about it.
Well, you become a master. It's the acquiring the mastery level. But it's through that, like you said, getting into the nitty gritty. I kind of like compare it to when I was in conservatory and we would have to sing like foreign language arias. It would be in Italian or French, or we would have to go to the library, pull out the dictionary, the French dictionary, and line by line, word by word, translate the text of the song we were singing. And now today you can type it in and hit Google Translate and it gives it to you. But what I got was I was so committed to the text. I was so committed to the lyrics because I had to like painstakingly discover, what the song was about and how it was put together poetically. And so I totally, completely get that. And it is something that I sort of I challenge my kids to not take the easy way and invest, because your why, your what is so much clearer. So tell me how, Charlene, how you go from making it on your kitchen table in San Diego with 3 small kids to now, 20 years later, you have how many soap boutiques?
So we have 6 retail shops just for soap. We have 6 retail shops and like a cyber, we do a lot online, but our specialty in our target market is our actual retail locations.
It's probably daunting for people listening to think, okay, I have an Etsy shop, or I love to make something, and they might be monetizing it, but to grow it to the level, could you point it to a couple like key things?
Sure. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. I think that at first, when you're first starting out, so even if no matter what it is, I think that you have to have the passion to do it. You have to have the interest in it, and it's got to you got to be lit on fire about it. So much that when you do endure an obstacle or a trial or a challenge, that you accept it and say, okay, that was just part of the process. I'm so in love with making cosmetics that even though I hit a brick wall with this, I'm just going to go around it. Because I think if you don't have that fire and that passion, I know this is kind of overused right now. Everyone says you got to have the passion. You really do have to have that thing that's like vibrates your whole body into, this is it, this is for me. And I feel like anyone can monetize that feeling and that way of doing, no matter what the product is if it's something you hand make or even if it's a service. I think the way you monetize it is you got to kind of quit worrying that your product's excellent or thinking like, I have to have the best product and that's what's going to make me successful. That is not what has made us successful in any of our ventures. It's always been, this is our target customer. This is how we give them an experience, and we use the product as a tool to deliver the experience. So I believe the monetizing part of it and the success in business is not focusing on the product, but focusing on how the customer experiences the product. I always think about like Ferrari is $300,000, or you can get a Geo Metro for like $11,000. The product doesn't matter. I'm not going to balk at a $300,000 Ferrari if I was in the market for one. But if I'm not, I don't even look that way. But there's people out there that do, and they want that experience. And
Right.
I know, again, that's kind of an overused analogy, but it's so true. It's so simple. It's true. And that's really what we strive after. Once we decide, like, I'm going to take this product to market. Olive oil, we're in the olive oil business. So we have an olive oil and vinegar retail boutique as well, and online sales called Ebolo, which is the word olive backwards. And we have been able, have replicated our success with the soapery by we have great olive oil. Do not get me wrong. All of our products I feel are the best, but we don't focus tap dancing on, we have the best olive oil. We tap dance on, when you walk through our door at Evolo, you're in for a tasting tour. You are in for a complete culinary experience like no other. And you get to take it home with you and enjoy this fun time you're having here in your kitchen. So we focus on how the customer sees us and not so much on the fact that we have great olive oil, which is true. It's just not what makes us able to become successful as a business by just saying it's the best,
And I'm sure you create loyalty because people crave experiences, and then coupling that with the amazing product, I think is fantastic. I also love how you had the soapery, and then you decided that in the same strip mall or the same shopping center that the guests coming into the soap experience should have something to eat. So right down, you opened up what do you call it? What's the name of it?
Well, so that before the olive oil store, in between the soapery and the olive oil store, we actually opened a cupcake shop called Fat Bottom Girls Cupcakes.
Right.
And this was such a weird thing. Of course, I love to bake. I like to use my hands to make things like soap making, cupcake baking, things like that. So I we had our soapery, which was kind of doing good, but it was in its very early infant stages of building. I never foresaw how much growth we would have with that. So there was a kind of a tertiary time that the building next to us at the soapery kept coming open, and with like random retailers that were just like, one lady was painting like cat heads on top of like famous artwork. And I'm just like, who are we getting as neighbors over here? Like, now that I'm a cat person, I appreciate
I was going to say, I thought you loved cats.
I love cats now. I have 4 cats like looking at me right now. But at the time, I was just like, what is going on next door? And it was just kind of transient, overnight entrepreneurs kind of a thing. So our person that owned the building said, you should put something there. Your soapery's doing so good. Why don't you put something there? So I said, "Ooh, cupcakes are really popular right now, and I'm into them. I've been making them in the kitchen and doing crazy things with them. So let's open a cupcake shop." And I really only opened it so that, one, we had a tenant that was, awesome, and that, it was open normal hours and treating customers with an experience. So we ended up opening that really just as a snack shop and to have a cool tenant and to kind of be another creative outlet for me. Well, about 2 months into opening, we get a call from Cupcake Wars, from Food Network's Cupcake Wars. And they're like, "Hey, do you want to be on the show? We found you on the internet. You have this really cool shirt." Like, we had a shirt, and it was like kind of like a, 50s kind of pinup cartoon. And she was holding a plate of cupcakes, and the shirt says, "It's not going to lick itself," referring to the cupcake. But they thought it was funny that it had other meanings. And they said, "You guys are cool. Your name is cool. Your cupcakes look cool. Would you be on Cupcake Wars with us?" So I said, "Of course we will. When do we have to be there?" And they're like, "In a week." So we literally, my husband and I, were like, hell yes, we are not missing this. We packed up our car. We got everything ready, got somebody to watch the stores, and we, went on to Cupcake Wars and competed. And so that was, again, unforeseeable. It was just our experience from the customer standpoint. Even though they had never eaten our cupcakes, I feel like they were searching us out. They saw our vibe. They saw how much of a good experience we want to give our customers, and they said, "Hey, you're a perfect candidate for the show." So we did that, and it became a huge success. Like, we had lines out our door, just crazy stuff. I mean, even to this day, it's successful, but it wasn't like the soap is like, I would go out in town and people say, "There's the cupcake lady." And I'm like, "No, I'm the soap lady. I know the cupcakes are cool, and I know you saw me on TV, but I'm the soap lady. I like the soap. Remember, we have the soap store." And to this day, again, everyone's still, but we were going to put it for sale just because I really did want to grow the soap business and food. If any of your listeners have ever been in food service or restaurateurs, you will know how hard it is.
Yeah,
to
very.
do food and the cost and things. So it'd be great for, like, if you were just owner operating it, little bakery, and had a couple staff members. But our soapery was growing too at the time. We had actually opened a second location kind of around all that time, and I was putting it up for sale and wanted to sell it and had a great buyer. And my daughter was graduating high school that year, and she kind of sat us down and like looked us in the eye and said, "I'm not going to college. I want the cupcake shop. I'm not doing any of this college stuff. I'm going to just kind of do what you guys did." And of course, me, who dropped out of school and didn't know any better, like, I'm like, "The heck you are. You are the top 5% in the school district. You are going to college. We are going up there right now." I mean, it was like traumatizing for me.
Yeah.
So any other parent, I feel like, would be like, "Okay, cool. You don't want to go to school. I don't want to pay for it." But I won that like first battle then. And we ended up touring the facility. We went to the business school, and she comes back and we're home. And my husband's like, "Why would I send her to business school to run a business? Why don't we just let her let her buy the cupcake shop from us?" So we actually still have the cupcake shop in our family. She owns it now. She bought it from us, contracts and all, paid for it up front. I mean, she really did a good job, and she's got several locations now herself. So
Charlene, that is so awesome.
yeah, it was fun.
What an incredible like full circle for you. I just love that. Is she your oldest?
She is the oldest. And like you said, it really was full circle because, you go into business and you're wondering, like, you have your own successes and it's good, but you wonder like what you're contributing to the world. So to actually watch my daughter say, because of you, I'm doing this, like that was the best success I think I can ever experience.
Yeah. What with this, just your children in general, what role do they have in the businesses, or have they had? Have they all been involved? Like what's your kind of your view on that?
Yep. They have all from day one, they pretty much have been involved. So they've done tasks from like making the products to, everything. We fired my son twice. So my boy, who's actually in college, he's been fired twice from the business. He's actually not on the non-rehireable list. He's 20 now. He'll be 21 in June, but he's an entrepreneur, but not in the way we're the entrepreneur. So he wants to be a dentist and have a dentistry, and he needed something. He had to go to school. He has to go to school for dentistry. So they've played their role. I think we've kind of let them, it's been part of their life since they were young. And now that they're older, they're able to make, I think, a more firm decision on, because when you turn 18 and you graduate high school, everyone's confused. You're like, what do I do with my life? Who am I? I'm not even this person that's been in school for the last 10, 12 years. So I think it's helped them. They've been they've worked late nights. They've missed their own little cheerleading, football, band events just to, help keep the businesses afloat. So they have sacrificed as much as my husband and I have. But I think it's put them in a place to say, yes, this is what I want, like my daughter did to us, or heck no, this is nothing that I want, like my son has done. He's like, I love it. I appreciate it. It's just not for me. And then I do have a third, my youngest daughter, who's 18. She loves every minute of what we do at the soapery. She's one of our makers. And she's like launching her own candle line and t-shirts and stuff like that. So she's an entrepreneur. She wants to do so it's given them a kind of a view of what the world could be like if they were to experience it through a business or not. That's how the business has helped them. It's helped me raise them pretty much.
Yeah, that's very inspirational, because my kids are a little younger and I have had to fire one of mine as well.
It's not fun at the time, but it's pretty fun to like reminisce about it.
Yeah, we always, because my kids take turns doing our cleaning in our office, so we complain frequently about the cleaning service. Yeah. So I have a question, because as we start to wrap up and I think about you have this creative sort of side of yourself that is kind of like the bud of all these businesses. How do you continue to cultivate creativity in your life now? And do you see like a next thing for you?
I am someone that listens to myself and I think that's kind of hard. You kind of have to experience some successes that on decisions you've made. And now that I'm older and have had the journey, I listen to myself. And so if my intuition or my gut or something vibrates weird in my body when I'm wanting to do something, if it's like a positive feeling, I just go after it. And so even the Mrs. Arkansas thing, I'm 37, I'm almost 40, entering into a beauty pageant with women that are in their 20s. And to me, I just loved it so much, like wanted to do it so much. It's something completely out of my comfort zone, but I got like just this really good feeling about it. And to me, it's how I stay creative. It's like experience this whole other world that I would have never thought I could do or necessarily wanted to do when I was younger. That's taken me and put me in this weird area of my life. That's because, not being an entrepreneur and a business focused person every day is one thing, but entering a beauty pageant and doing this, is completely different than business. So it's helped spark like things I would have never thought about. And it lets me stay, imaginative to other things that could come up. So now my next feeling is I want to own a beauty pageant, but I haven't really told anybody that except for you.
We won't tell anybody.
Okay, that's good.
Well, I guess I would just say one like common theme that I hear and I've seen is I think you are so authentic, first of all. And you do. I see in action how you listen, you trust, you move, all the way back to the soap experience, all the way to just the idea of the cupcake shop. It's very inspiring for me because I can get trapped in the, an analyzing and second guessing. And so I guess my last question, which I think would be a great one for our listeners, in all of that, if I say, oh, you're trusting your gut and you're moving, there have to have been some bad moves. Like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Or, wow, it felt good, but it's not feeling good now. I guess, maybe share like a failure that you really learned from, or how do you bounce back from failure? Because you can't be as successful as you are without having almost equal or more amounts of failure.
Yes, you are 100% right about that. That's a great point to put up. I actually just had somebody email me. I posted something where one of our businesses won an award for something recently. And of course I always share it because I'm excited and happy and proud of myself and my team and my husband and family. And someone wrote to me, is that all you do is brag about yourself, about your positives. It's just someone who is just being a troll, and they're like, all you do is ever brag about yourself. You're just a bragging person. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't tell you all about the terrible things that happen and the failures. So we have one of the experiences that I learned a lot from was we actually bought a restaurant. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. We bought a restaurant that was 30 years old. And so it had its original owners. They were retiring. They weren't able to sell it just because it's where we grew up in Southern Illinois. So very kind of poverty stricken area. At one time was booming with like coal mines and things like that. There was a lot of labor, blue collar working. So this restaurant was popular most of its life, but now that the area was kind of going down and then the owners were retiring, the business, it had this amazing nostalgia. It has an awesome brand experience. Like when you know what this does for the customer and the experience it gives the customer, it's like a no-brainer. So my husband and I thought, let's buy it. We know it's failing. We know it's in a terrible area, but we're so good at what we do. We can make it. If anyone can make it great again, it could be us, So we bought it and we spent, we're completely debt free. So we have no debt in business. We have no debt in personal life at all. So we spent a big chunk of our, savings and what we worked hard for all the years to buy this restaurant. And we knew it was like an awful risk that, but we didn't know. We're like, we can do this. We're great. We've done this with multiple businesses. So we keep it for a couple of years. We are so in the hole. I'm talking like the amount we paid for it, plus just the money it lost. And it's a restaurant again. And I told you how I felt about food.
Yeah.
It was just like a bleed, like that could not stop. We could not put a tourniquet on it. There was kind of no bouncing back from keeping it in that area. And that, I think, we kind of got caught up in the fact that we've put so much into it. We can't let it go. We got to make it successful now. It's not like, oh, we hope it'll turn around. We're like, okay, this has to be a successful now because we've invested all this time, all this money, all this hard work into it, but there's no way out. And I think admitting when it's over quickly. So like you said, I make decisions fast as far as like going and jumping on things and turning them around. I think you kind of have to, when you are getting that feeling of like, okay, this felt right, but now it doesn't. And your body feels that, okay, this is wrong. You jump on that feeling too. And you say, this is it. So we kind of, looked at each other and said, hey, we're never going to bounce back from this. So let's just cut it off now. So we ended up closing it and we still own the brand. And I still think the brand itself is going to give an amazing customer experience, maybe in a different town. But it was a big failure. It's like financial failure. It was a big failure. And it was just too like one of those kind of things like when you are successful a lot with things and then you run into something that fails, you kind of have a personal inside like ego thing that you have to overcome. And I think that kind of has helped us kind of say, okay, this was a great experience. We learned a lot from this. It cost us a lot. We lost a lot, but we're still okay. We learned from it. We know not what to do with the brand. So if we ever decide to open it again somewhere else, we know exactly what not to do. And so that's been I think acting quickly on the feelings is helpful.
Right. And also I think a restaurant failure is also a public failure, or a public, everybody knows when the restaurant closes or whatever. So there's also that, wrestling with that too. And
the owner was able to keep it for 30 years. You guys only had it 2 and killed it. That was kind of the theme of social media. And it's like, I learned from that too. Like that wasn't what happened. So I'm not going to respond to that kind of, thing and I'm not going to roll over and die now that was said about me online. So kind of learning from those things and learning from the failure.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, Curtis says this when he speaks from the stage. He says that failure is an event, not a person.
Exactly. I don't want to, ruin the surprise, but if you watch Netflix, you can see our Cupcake Wars episode. It's called Comedy Cupcakes. And I don't want to ruin the surprise, but we actually lost Cupcake Wars. Like, we were the second group out of 4 out, and that was on national television. So I didn't come back home to Arkansas and cry about losing or tell anyone. I didn't even tell anyone we lost. We just put Cupcake War Food Network decals on the window, as seen on, and we played our episode on TV, like on a rotating, like it just plays 24/7. And we don't sit there and say, oh, we lost, it was terrible, and make all these excuses for why we lost. We're like, hey, we did this. This was so cool. This is what happened. And we had this experience of our lifetime. And I kind of looked at the restaurant that way too. Like, I know how to handle the restaurant or something on that magnitude, especially when there's so much financial piece of it involved, that makes you make bad decisions.
Sure.
It's all in how, like you said, it's an event, and it's really on how you respond to the event.
Yeah. Oh, Charlene, I'm so just inspired by you, and just glad to know you as a friend, and just will continue to watch as your businesses expand. And I know you're, on the road toward building your personal brand. And if people want to follow you, is the best way to do that on Instagram, or what would you recommend?
You could go to charlenesimon.com, and I kind of have everything under one roof there. It's like an umbrella of everything we do. So charlenesimon.com would be fine. But I do love Instagram. I'm kind of Instagram person. I don't know why. My kids are saying that's becoming like the old person.
Oh no. Now what? But it's the Charlene Simon, and then charlenesimon.com. And then from there, either place, I think you can find all the other brands. Bathhouse Soapery, the olive oil. How do you say it again?
It's Evolo.
Evolo. I love that.
Backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. It was so fantastic to have you on today as our guest, Charlene, and we just wish you the best, and thank you for sharing your incredible creative and business tips.
Thank you. I loved being on the show, and I can't wait to hug you again when I see you.
Oh, thank you, Charlene. Bye.
Bye. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Well, Elle, I know what I'm going to be doing when I get home this evening. I'm totally going to watch her Cupcake Wars episode on Netflix.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I did not know this about her, that her daughter actually bought the cupcake business from her. And as a mother, that's just very inspirational and empowering to see now she's at that place where her legacy is happening right before her eyes. If you were inspired by what you heard today, I would love for you to share it with a friend. And also, reviews are the number one way that this podcast will be able to help more people step into their creative life purpose, and I would be honored to have yours. I'm so grateful you joined us for today's episode. I bet you're here because you know there's something more for your life. Whether you're moving into something creative or letting go in order to take that next creative step, I have something for you. My free guide to graceful transitions. You can find it at elzimmerman.com/transitions. And remember, if she made it, you can too.